Hello, we're back. Today we're going to be talking about photosynthesis, and where this fits in is we're talking about where food comes from, and then it comes from plants and animals. And we've talked about the food chains and the circle of life and how nature feeds itself. And at the very top of the food chains are plants. And what we learned in the last lesson is that plants make their own food and they get the energy to make their own food from the sun. And that process is called photosynthesis. And so I'm going to go over here a really basic lesson on what photosynthesis is so that you can understand where everything starts, where the whole food chain starts, where nature's food chain start, where you fit into the food chain, and where all of your food comes from. So, if you look here at this slide, it's it's obscured a little bit by me, but under this is water. If you look in the soil, you'll see all the water here. The plant drinks up the water. It produces a gas called carbon dioxide. It breathes out oxygen, and in that process it makes its own food. So, to make it a little bit more clear, let's imagine that you're a chef in a kitchen, okay? And to make your favorite dish, you need to have all the best ingredients. And so for plants, it's the same way. The sun is their favorite ingredient, and they use it to make their own food. So, in addition to sun, they also need water and carbon dioxide. So, you'll see water in the soil here. And you'll see in the red, you see what is carbon dioxide, which is a gas that the plants breathe out. So, the way it works is this: the plant drinks the water from the ground through its roots, just like you would drink water through a straw from a glass of water. They drink it up, it comes from underneath the soil into the roots and then into the leaves. The plant breathes in the carbon dioxide from the air. It's a gas that's just naturally in the air, and it breathes it in through tiny holes in its leaves. And then the plant catches the sunlight with its leaves, just like you would catch a ball. And it uses all these ingredients, the water, the carbon dioxide, and the sunlight, to mix it all up together. And it produces a sugar that's called glucose. Now, we have glucose in our bodies because of the plants that we eat and all the food that we eat. Plants also have sugar as their food, and that's what they eat. And they just make it themselves. So, what's interesting about this also is there's a little bonus to photosynthesis where the plant then breathes out oxygen, and that's what we humans breathe in. And what we humans breathe out is the carbon dioxide that plants need, and what they breathe out is what we need to breathe in. So, it's this big, amazing, beautiful cycle of nature where humans and nature just live together, and plants are producing their own food, they're producing oxygen for us, making food for us. We're providing them with carbon dioxide just by being here. And it's just another example of one of the amazing systems in nature that's just perfect. And that's just part of our food chain and a part of our the whole way that we feed ourselves and the whole way that we live really on the planet. So, I wanted you to see this slide because it shows you really how the sunlight shines on the plants. The plants drink water from the soil. They take in the carbon dioxide from the air and they breathe out the oxygen. And that whole process is a complicated process called photosynthesis. Anything having to do with the sun, you could use the word photo for. And so photosynthesis is taking the sunlight and synthesizing it, which means making something, making it into food. And that's how the food chain starts. And that's how plants and animals start. And that's how we end up getting our food from those plants and animals. It's really an amazing process. I get so excited about teaching it. If you have any more questions about this, go onto my website. There's a whole lesson there all about photosynthesis, goes into more detail. I have some really neat videos up there on photosynthesis for kids. and I have a board game there for kids. These are just, I have them just linked to. These aren't board games that I made, but there's a really cool book there about photosynthesis that my kids really liked, and I'm just sharing all those resources with you. I'm not affiliated with them or anything. I just want you to have all these resources to teach your kids where food comes from. It starts with the sun, which feeds the plants, which feed the animals, which both plants and animals feed humans. And that's where your food really comes from. In this slide, I'm just showing you a little bit more about how photosynthesis works. I really want you to look at how the sun is coming through the leaves, and the leaves just suck up the sun so fast, and they just love it so much. So the sun shines, the plants take the CO2 from the air, they absorb the water from the soil. Chlorophyll is the green part of the plants. So when you see the green in plants, that's a substance that's made called chlorophyll that's made through this process. It's part of what the plants use to feed itself. And this whole process just works together to create the glucose, the sugar that the plants eat. So I have a science experiment here for you on this slide, and this is a very, very cool experiment. You can't see the picture too well, but the way this works, and we did this in my house, and the kids thought it was so awesome. What you do is you take a little square of paper towel or coffee filter, and you hang it over the side of a bowl that has some spinach leaves or some leaves from outside in the bottom of it. You tear up the leaves, pour some nail polish remover over it, mash it up with a spoon, make sure the nail polish remover covers the leaves, and then hang your little piece of uh, paper towel or coffee filter over the side and just let it sit for a few hours, 3 hours. And what you'll see is you'll see colors moving up the paper, moving up the paper towel or the coffee filter. And you'll see greens, yellows, reds, and oranges. And what you're seeing is all of the different chemicals that are in the leaf. So this is the most cool part, I think. When the leaves change colors in the fall, you're not seeing the leaves actually change their colors. When there's not as much sun in the wintertime, there's not as much chlorophyll being made. There's not as much food being made for the leaves. That's why they eventually die. But before they die, they turn these brilliant colors. And the reason why is because when there's no chlorophyll, you can see the chemicals that are red or orange or yellow, depending on the type of the leaf. So when there's no chlorophyll, you see all those colors. And that's where you get the changing of the fall leaves. It's not really actually changing anything. It's just not producing enough food for the leaves to make them green. Their food is green. And so eventually, as you know, the leaves die and they fall off the tree, and the tree goes through its seasons. But that's exactly what's happening. The leaves die because they don't have any food, because there's not enough sun to help them make their own food. So this experiment just really drives this concept home for kids. They love it. It's awesome. I'm going to put this experiment up on my website as well. You can find it there. And now you guys know the whole process of photosynthesis. And it's really, really important. And this is a really easy way to understand the whole thing in 10 minutes. So this is photosynthesis. This is how the whole food chain starts. It starts with the sun, goes to the plants, which go to the animals, which go to you, and then you get your food from plants and animals, and that's where it all comes from. So I really am spending a lot of time on these topics because I really want you to start to think about where your food comes from, um, and understand that it doesn't come from the grocery store, that it comes from nature. And you can protect nature, you can protect yourself, and you can work together with nature to just be so healthy and to make great choices with your food. And when we get into further lessons, here it says, well, kids will be talking about processed foods, and we'll be talking about industry that makes foods. And I want you to see the difference between this and that. So we'll continue on with these really in-depth lessons about nature and where your food comes from in the next lesson. We'll see you there.